We are officially on the NHL All-Star break. Today we're going to review all the latest trade rumors going around the NHL, the deals we may see when the NHL resumes and back into action. We're talking about teams like the Vancouver Canucks. We're also looking at teams like the Montreal Canadiens, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Los Angeles Kings, and including Montreal, could we see a big deal with the Edmonton Oilers? We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a ton of trade rumors I want to take a look at here as we enter the NHL's official All-Star break. The All-Star festivities begin tonight. Of course, we have the draft going on to make the All-Star teams. That's just actually getting underway as I start to record this video. Plus, there's also the 3-on-3 women's showcase for the women professional hockey players that get to participate in this event as well. So certainly lots of great action there. Get the skills event tomorrow. And then, of course, Saturday we'll bring the actual 3-on-3 tournament for the All-Star teams. We do have a few other quick items to touch on before we get into the trade rumors. A couple of roster moves quickly. The Anaheim Ducks have sent young defenseman Olen Zellweger back down to the American Hockey League, of course, so he can keep playing over the break. And the Ottawa Senators today, we knew they were going to do something with their goaltending, given that they had to put Chartier through waivers, trying to create some space. I thought they might activate Anton Forsberg, but they didn't. To get Sogard back to the American Hockey League, they've done so by recalling Kevin Mandolese. So Mandolese comes up. He can collect a couple of NHL paychecks and be on the roster for the week until they play again. Sogard can go down to the minors. And then afterwards, if Forsberg's ready to go after the break, he can back up Korpisalo. And if he's not quite ready, they can either keep Mandolese up or switch him and Sogard back again. Either way, the roster is sorted out for the time being. I wondered if they might have another move, because they would need another move to activate Forsberg. So rather than put somebody else on waivers or something, this was the easier path for right now, where they don't actually have a game for like another 9 days or whatever it is. We do have more information regarding the 2018 World Junior players that are facing charges for sexual assault. Rick Weston at TSN had some stuff posted. He'll be appearing on SportsCenter tonight to discuss, but TSN has obtained the actual court documents that show all players have indeed been charged with sexual assault. And I believe it's January the 26th that says players were arrested. And Michael McLeod, actually, of all the players on there, he has a second charge. So there's an actual extra charge there against him, leading some people to wonder, and we'll see how things play out in court. We'll get more details later, because there's obviously one of the players was somebody that the alleged victim originally connected with and had like a consensual relationship kind of going that night before everything transpired that she's alleging happened afterwards. It's based on the extra charges here. It sounds like that might have been McLeod, but I'm not sure if I'm reading that right or what have you. But he definitely has a second charge on there. It sounds based on what lawyers were commenting. I know one of the commentators that has a show on TSN, Eric Macramella, is also a legal expert, and he said it's likely going to be one trial. All players will be on one trial. They all have their own separate legal counsel representing them, and then they'll be found, either guilty, not guilty, or whatever. Like, it's just going to be one big event, not all separate. But like I said before, because of the court system in Ontario, it's believed that the trial might not even get underway until 2026. It could be a long, drawn-out process. There's still lots of questions, which we will likely have asked to Gary Bettman in the NHL tomorrow. We don't know what he's going to be able to say or not say as far as the status of these players. Are they going to be suspended? Are they going to be just continue to be on paid leave? How is this going to work? We don't know. All four players that are in the NHL currently are on expiring contracts as well. They're all pending restricted free agents. So I would suspect that, they probably will, once their contracts are expired, will remain unsigned until this is settled, would be my guess. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people wondering, are they going to attempt to kind of go back to work, so to speak? And, in a system where you're considered innocent until proven guilty, which is certainly what you want, you want a free society where you have the option to defend yourself and prove that you're not guilty if indeed you are. But it's an awkward scenario because of the nature of the allegations being such a condemning thing, and like it's a big major thing, right? So it's not like it's a minor offense here. So they would be looking at long jail sentences if they're found guilty. So at the end of the day, it's just really unclear what comes next, but we will get more information, like I said, on February the 5th, which is Monday, from London Police. And then I'm sure this weekend at the All-Star festivities, that Gary Bettman, when he speaks to the media, will definitely get questions. How much he can say, I don't know, but we should learn more about that next week if we don't learn about it this weekend. Now, on to the trade rumors. I do want to look at a potential trade between Montreal and Edmonton. I was just reading an article here a short time ago discussing a potential big deal between the two clubs. We'll get into that in a few minutes. But looking at the Elias Lindholm trade that went down yesterday, of course, the big first domino to fall here amongst all the trade targets. He's certainly one of the bigger names that was near the top of most trade bait boards that we've been talking about for the last number of weeks. He's been linked to several teams and ended up going to the Canucks. So the Canucks were a team that we mentioned were showing interest in him at one point, but we never really had enough intel to suggest they were like a front runner. But we had talked about numerous times where it made sense for the Canucks to maybe adjust what they were targeting, because there was a lot of talk about Jake Gensel. But because of the fact that they sometimes like to play Pettersson and Miller together in that Lotto line, that maybe another centerman like a Lindholm or Sean Monahan or any of those guys that were on the market would make more sense for Vancouver. And we did talk about that a number of occasions, and that's exactly what they did. Now, Jim Rutherford did a lot of media appearances today as well as yesterday, and the comments he made were kind of telling a little bit, plus what reporters were digging up and reporting on as well. But it sounds like the Vancouver Canucks were still very much interested in defenseman Chris Tanev. There was a point to believe that early in those conversations that Tanev and Lindholm were both in the deal at one point, but it's believed that the price tag was just going to be too much and too complicated for the Canucks to figure out, to work that out with the Flames. It's believed the Flames, for Tanev alone, want a first-round pick. They were already giving up a first-round pick as well as Kuzmenko and the prospects that they did in the deal for Lindholm, and to give up another first-round pick, which would have to be a future date one, for Tanev, as much as they're interested in that, it just might seem like a little bit much. So I'm not sure how likely we are that they'll circle back and try again. I guess they probably will check, because if the price comes down, maybe they reconsider. But we know that Tanev's had lots of interest out there. We talked about Ottawa and Toronto having interest. Some of the American teams as well. We've heard New Jersey. To some degree, the Rangers might add a defenseman. There's lots of other options out there for Chris Tanev. There's no doubt. He's definitely going to get moved, and there will be a decent return, I'm sure. And because of the fact of, I don't see a lot of, competition for the type of defenseman he is that's out there in the market. He's going to be one of the higher profile D out there. I don't know that really the price is going to come down a whole heck of a lot. It's going to boil down to who's willing to pay. But the Canucks definitely still had interest in Tanev, tried to include him in the deal, and just the price was too much. They just couldn't make it work. But it'll be interesting to see if they do circle back and try that again. I know one GM that's probably quite happy with this trade is Ken Hughes of Montreal. Obviously, Sean Monahan, by many, is viewed upon as being probably the next best center that's available on the trade market, at least for pending like UFA rentals, besides Lindholm. Now that Lindholm has moved and generated a pretty good return for the Flames, I mean, for them to get a roster player like Kuzmenko, a first-round pick, and a couple of prospects, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. There's also a conditional fourth-round pick in there as well, which can be upgraded to a third-rounder if the Canucks make it to the Western Conference Final. We know that Monahan has a cheap contract. He's played really well. We know that the teams that did not get Lindholm but were interested are probably now going to be circling back to Montreal and Monahan. You're looking at the Bruins, the Jets, the Rangers, the Avalanche. They've all been linked to wanting to add down the middle, and Lindholm was a player to varying degrees that they all had at least some interest in and obviously didn't end up getting. So now that he's moved, Monahan's price is probably going to go up a little bit, and I think it's fair to say that Montreal was quite happy with seeing that deal set the market for that type of player. Now, apparently in Philadelphia as well, they're getting calls and are at least entertaining. It doesn't mean they're going to make a move here on Scott Laughton. Again, because the center market's a little thin. After you get Lindholm and Monahan, there's Adam Henrique out there as well. There's not a ton of experienced centermen that's on the market. that's a pending UFA. Now, Lawton does have some term, but at the end of the day, he is a player that is generating some interest. Philadelphia at this point has been viewed as taking calls on Lawton. They're not really sure they want to do the deal, but if a good enough offer comes along, it sounds like they will consider it. We know that Sean Walker's in play, and just a matter of maybe a team would like both of those guys. Like, I know I'm looking at Toronto, for example. We know the Leafs were really interested in maybe having a third center in defenseman. Walker and Lawton would be good additions for the Leafs for what they're looking for. The Flyers are currently in a playoff spot, but just because they are, I don't get the feeling that Danny Briere is going to not make a move if it feels it's best for the future of his club. They're not going to just try to go forward here and be foolish to waste what could be good returns on some players if the opportunities are there. Again, no guarantees that he does this kind of a deal, but Walker more of a likely goes, but Lawton doesn't have to go. But like I said, if the offers are coming through, the interest is picking up because of the lack of rental options in that type of position. In Los Angeles, now, of course, they're a team that's definitely looking at goaltending, looking at Cam Talbot since he's been named an All-Star. And he's played in 7 games where he's 0-5-2 with an .865 save percentage. That goes to show you they were getting quality, high-level goaltending early in the season, and their D-core was playing really, really good as well. The D-core performance has dropped off. The goaltending has really dropped off, and that's a large part of why they've had their struggles lately, and actually their offense has dried up as well. It was a bit of everything, in my opinion, for the Kings. But goaltending seems to be an area that they probably look at as being their biggest need. They're getting Victor Arvidsson back from LTIR sometime in this month, so they know they're getting a boost to the forward group. Their D-core, for the most part, is pretty good. I don't know that they really want to make a ton of changes there. Maybe a depth piece, but nothing significant. Goaltending is the area of concern. Copley's out for the year. Dave Riddick right now has been kind of outplaying Talbot a little bit, which is concerning. If Dave Riddick is your number one, I would imagine GM Rob Blake is probably sweating a little bit, thinking we can't go into the playoffs like that. So would he make a move for a goaltender? It certainly seems quite likely. I know on the Jeff Merrick show today, he and Elliot Friedman were talking about some options, and Merrick brought up the possibility of Marc-Andre Fleury. We know that the Kings and the Wild have had a few separate trades. Look at Kevin Fiala, for example. There is a connection there between the two clubs, lots of familiarity. And haven't we seen that Cam Talbot, Marc-Andre Fleury tandem before? They actually were quite good together. And, will Fleury kind of come to LA and maybe take Talbot's job? Again, would not be something, but he's a pending UFA goalie. People are wondering if he's going to want to make one last run at a cup, because a lot of people kind of suspected this was kind of his last kick at the can this year. That might be his final season. It's kind of felt like a farewell tour as he's made his way around the league this year. Maybe that'll change. You never know, but that's kind of the feeling a lot of people have. And, LA would make a great spot that could really use a guy like him, an actual experienced starting goaltender, especially if you think about the fact that LA would have a good shot at running into a team like Vegas, his old team, which, he was not real happy when he got traded out of there. He'd love an opportunity, I'm sure, to do battle with his old club in the playoffs. Could we see Fleury and Talbot reconnect as a tandem? That would be interesting, to say the least, but something that I don't know if Merrick and Friedman really had any intel on that. It was more of Merrick just kind of wondering, looking at the objectives to see a good fit here, but it does make some sense. In the article I was looking at just a short time ago suggesting a blockbuster deal between the Habs and the Oilers, it was very interesting. We know the Oilers obviously have been on a phenomenal winning streak. They added Corey Perry as a free agent. They got Dylan Holloway back. They're expected to maybe make some additional moves. There is some still thoughts about goaltending with the Oilers. Will they or won't they touch that situation? Skinner's been great, but do they want Pickard to be the backup going into the playoffs? Would Campbell get another chance? Or if they had a chance to trade Campbell, would they move on from the contract? All that considered, this deal between Montreal and Edmonton essentially allows the Oilers to move on from Campbell, get a younger goalie in return, and add another veteran forward to the mix. The trade that's being talked about in this article, and I don't think this deal really has a lot of legs from an NHL insider perspective. It's more of the writer opinion, but I found it interesting. I wanted to see what people thought. The trade goes as follows: is Brendan Gallagher going to the Oilers with money retained, so the Habs would have to eat some money on that contract, along with Caden Primo and defenseman Matthias Norlinder, would go to the Oilers. In exchange, they take back the Jack Campbell contract. They get a prospect that we know they've been linked to in Xavier Bourgault and a first-round pick. Would the Edmonton Oilers do that trade? I mean, I understand moving off Campbell. The money would work to add Gallagher in because the Campbell contract going out, especially with money retained. But do they really want Brendan Gallagher? I mean, I don't know that Montreal would trade Caden Primo. I think if Montreal is going to trade a goalie, it's probably going to be Jake Allen. I think they'd rather hang on to Primo, being the younger goalie of the two. But does Gallagher really fit what the Oilers would want? He is nowhere near what he was in his earlier part of his career when he was a pest to play against and scoring 30 goals or 25, 30 goal seasons. I've watched numerous Habs games this year where I've barely noticed Brendan Gallagher. The last time I took notice, he had his chicken wing up, taken off somebody's face, getting suspended. I just have no idea why the why the Oilers would want Gallagher. It makes no sense to me. I can understand wanting Caden Primo, and I would understand the Oilers wanting to move Campbell. And I do get the fact that from a Montreal perspective, they say, well, if you want us to take Campbell, the only way to do that would be for you to take Gallagher back. Does that really work for both clubs? I don't know that anybody benefits. I know Montreal does seem to like Bourgault. They'd probably love the first round pick. I can see the Oilers liking Primo. I don't know. I'd like to see what everybody thinks of it. Is that a trade that these two teams would actually benefit from? Let me know what your thoughts are, and we'll talk about it further. That's all of your news and updates for tonight, so certainly stay tuned. I hope you enjoy the All-Star festivities. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around so you don't miss any updates. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.